Hey folks, welcome to Kaisers Castle. Got a little, want to start out with a little backdrop of what's been in the news this past week. Later on I may have a surprise guest, but I also have the topic of today I'm going to do happens to be on fear, pain, and choices in honor. But like I said, let's start it out with the topical news of the day. And again, welcome to Kaiser's Castle. Alright, everybody's heard about the 71 Russians that went down in a plane. The initial reports was the one guy in Rosatom, Ivanov Yakoslav, the CFO of Rosatom, was coming in to testify about uranium-1. Well, more news came out that they had Sergei Milian, who was coming in to testify about the way in which the dossier was put together. Because I assume, since he was going to testify, they were both going to testify, he had intimate knowledge of how it was pieced together. So when you have two people like that dying in a plane accident, you know, I don't believe in coincidences. To me, that's not a coincidence, so you may want to keep an eye on that. Second thing that really made my ears go up was the mention of Bill Priestep, and he was the FBI COINTELPRO director, directly over Peter Strzok. Now the funny thing is, I'd forgotten, and I remember the way it looked when Miss Strzok, who was talking to Comey when it first made news, she asked him several pointed questions. One of them being like, you know, why did you not inform the Congress in a timely manner and put it in your report? Well, funny thing about it, I remembered Mike Rogers, and I remember what I was thinking when he looked over at Comey. I thought, oh, he was thinking, oh, you know, you better be honest, but, you know, Rogers is an intel guy, so he's very dubious. But I think in the end it's going to come out that Rogers is the one who told Trump about the dossier, because he found out about it by doing an audit on that program. And he realized we have a sitting president coming in that is going to find out about this. And so I think Rogers went to report it at Trump Tower. That was that meeting. I think it was on the 16th, 17th. I think it was in November, if I remember right. And then Comey quick made a CYA visit, but Rogers marched it into the FISA court, and that's when the 99-page FISA memo was released. And so now that whole congressional testimony comes to a more fuller light, because he's looking at him, when I rewatched it, he's looking at him like, you piece of shit. So I think that's something to watch, because Mike Rogers, I never would have thought this in the beginning. People on my page know how I think and what I thought, but I think he's actually going to be thought of as the hero in this damn thing, and that'll blow me away if that comes out to be true, and I think it will. So the shooting, I'm still nebulous on it. I don't really want to talk about it. I may have a guest on later, and he and I will talk about it, but I think doing it by myself on this, because I'm still conflicted on several things, it'd be too disjointed. And I think that the people who do listen to my program deserve better than that. So I think it would be more interesting to talk about that. Now, getting to the topic du jour. Fear and pain. We've all had fear. There's nobody here that hasn't experienced it. That little twinkling and twinging of your gut when you know something's up, but you don't know what. That's a self-defense mechanism, and it should be trusted. It does and will make sure that you're not going to have harm done to you. You know, the fight or flight response. There's different levels of it, of course. But the interesting thing about it is that with pain, it takes fear to a different dynamic. And it changes priorities. These things I think you all have experienced in some level in the human capacity that in which we live. But the thing about it is, it's how you handle your fear, how you handle your pain. So the point of it, this talk that I want to give on fear and pain, is how to also maintain a sense of honor with it. And I guess you could say it ties into these news stories in an odd way. And I'll get around to that, my point. Now, I remember at 17, I had a conversation with a friend who stopped by yesterday. It was nice. I always enjoy talking with him. Good young man. And I had told him before he went off to go into the military, I had said, you know, everything you hear said about basic and whatever is absolutely true. The stories are absolutely true if it's coming from some new troop coming out of basic, because that's their first sense of actually getting discipline in their bodies, learning about what they're about. And so it sounds so magnified. Oh, they're going to be yelling at me in my face, making me do push-ups until I have total muscular failure, keeping me up all night in freezing cold weather, or out in the hot sun and marching forever. These things are about building a sense of discipline and purpose. And what that purpose and discipline will do, it will help you to overcome the fear. And as I told him, everything's correct. Nobody's lying about basic. But the thing about it is, you have to take it down in your mind 17 times. Because you're going through it with everybody else. And as you go through it, it'll be easier than what you made it out to in your mind. Pain. We all hate it. It sucks. Emotional pain, physical pain. But when you look back on it, let's say like when, I'll give you an example, I cut off my finger and then they reattached it. I remember it was like it was yesterday. And the thing is, the pain was there. I remember the ache was there for a long time because it broke the bone, of course, the tip of the finger. But looking back on it is really funny. So with time, pain, even mental stress and pain, over time will lose, like the death of a parent. That will mellow with age. Now, I've said this before. Many people who have known me for a while know that this is kind of my credo. Honor. The only person that can give up your honor is yourself. You have to Be true to your word. Be true to your oaths. You have to have a good moral guide. And don't think that I haven't had problems. We all do. It's a state of the human condition. But you still have to attempt to maintain honor. Even through pain. Even through fear. Anybody who says they know exactly what they're going to do in a gunfight are full of shit, unless they've been in a few. Anybody who says they know what it's like to be somewhere that's strange all by themselves, unless they've done it, you know, they're full of that too. It's not fun. It's not enjoyable. And you have to take decisions that are correct at all times. So the thinking has to become one of introspection and honesty. And it has to be a brutal honesty. You know. And yes, it's maddening sometimes because you realize not only are you not perfect, but you fuck up daily. And that's okay. Just like like the difference between a white lie or a lie of omission or an actual outright bona fide lie. If somebody does come forward and says this was a lie or whatever, I believe as long as they confess it, that it's a non-event. A lie of omission by not saying something that you should say. That's a major lie, especially if you're following a code of ethics and you're a government employee and you just omit to tell people in a timely manner of something, good, bad, or indifferent. Look, come shit or bleed, you have to know if something's wrong, just like with fear, that stomach queasiness. You have to realize this is wrong, and if you know about it, you will have to say something. Just if you want to maintain honor, I mean. But, you know, and honor means different things to different people. A lie about facts. Sometimes you have to do that to draw people out. A myriad of different reasons that you may have to do that, especially in the law enforcement community. And especially if you're trying to suss somebody out. So you may lie about stupid shit. Just to see where it goes. But realize it will come back, and when it does, you just laugh about it. Because you did it. And you don't worry about it. You're just like, yeah, so what? It's always worked for me. You know, if when I found out somebody was telling me an outright lie, and I've done it around other people. Unfortunately, some people didn't know it was a lie, and I don't really care about those people, so it didn't matter. But the other person was on board, and we knew what we were going to do to trap this guy. And we found out he was a useless piece of shit. Well, that was a good lie. Like a white lie. Your wife says, honey, how do I look today? And maybe she's not looking the most perfect that she does every day, but you chose her. Or your mom says, you know, how do I look today? Your mother. Or your sister. Well, of course you're probably going to tell them they look fine. You know. the different levels of familia, you're going to handle it within that sphere. If your son's disappointed in something, you may tell him, don't worry, it'll get better, even though it might not. So, did you lose honor with that? I don't think so. So, when you come to the fear and you come to the pain, and you're in a different place, a different land, or even your own homeland, you see some of this that already manifesting. It's kind of unique the way I look at it, and it's especially really heavily hit in our polarized society, where you have the left having their cognitive dissonance completely blown away, which is causing them to have Trump derangement syndrome and an unwarranted fear. But they had no problem with a Marxist that was trying to change everything about our country, because he was trendy, he was cool, he was black. I believe in being honest about my thoughts and opinions, and that is why I can say, like, during that presidency, people did have a well-reasoned fear, but in the end, he ended up being nothing more than a liberal con. He bombed more countries, tried to start more wars, was more divisive globally than any other sitting president, yet he won the Nobel Peace Prize. Just imagine that. You did nothing, but you win the Nobel Peace Prize, and you go on to become, as he said in his own words, I've killed more people. Yeah, remember that? Yeah. I'm good at it. He never killed anybody. He had other people doing his killing. It was always about narcissism. It's all about himself. You can have a healthy sense of self and maintain honor. But it is easy to fall into a narcissistic attitude. I've even done it. Yeah, I call it getting the big head. But luckily, I'm married, and when I do that, my wife will say, tone it down, idiot. And she's usually right. And it may even come with me disagreeing with her at the beginning. But over time, I'll hear it, and it may take a day or two, but then I'll say, you were right. And a good friend will do that also. A friend that you've known for years, they will always do that for you also, to keep your head on level. And that's kind of what the Brotherhood of War is, or what we call the Pipe Hitters Union, my little closed group of people. Sadly, we've had, and I'm sure this has happened to many veterans, how many friends you lose. They decide they want to blow their heads off. It's happened. And it probably goes through every veteran's mind at some point or another. But the thing is, I never got on the SSRIs or any of the drugging that they do to our vets, which is an abomination. And they're doing it to our kids too. So eventually I worked through the pain, the mental pain, sense of loss. And I think that pain that's mental is also fear, because you don't know how you're going to respond to that pain on a deep personal level. So, to try to bring this full circle, when you're going through pain, going through drama, when you feel nobody understands or nobody knows, that's the time to reach out. Your first sense is going to be you want to close off to everybody. That's the wrong answer. That's when you reach out. You talk to your friends, you talk to your wife. February is usually a bad month for me, always. The days got short. You know, it's typical kind of thing. It's just a morose, depressing time. But even though I'll cut myself off in a degree, I always start to come out of it when the day's starting to lengthen. So, as I've told you before, usually in writing, not vocally, police are allowed to lie to you. You're not allowed to lie to them. No intelligence agency is ever invited to come spy on somebody else's country. So by definition, they're criminal. You have to accept sometimes that these are realities. The funny thing is, did that criminal intelligence guy lose honor because he was doing his job for his nation state? Did the cop lose honor because he was telling a lie to have a criminal, you know, confess or, you know, give up somebody? Well, it depends. If you're telling this rapist that he was involved in a gang rape with several other people, that, you know, the other guy in the room next to him has already given him up, he might as well give up everybody, and then the guy tells you everything. Was that an honorable thing? Yeah, maybe. Could be. If a cop puts forth a fraud to the courts or on official writing saying he found 2 pounds of methamphetamine in your car, but he happened to have it in his trunk because his buddy wanted to get rid of it, and so he drops it in your car so that he can write a report on it to get rid of it, well, that's corruption. He's lost all honor. If an intel guy is doing criminal stuff overseas and he gets caught and that nation punishes him, did he lose honor? That's a deep question, isn't it? But if he purposely was trying to do something criminal to his own nation while overseas, that is a loss of honor. As I always say, and I'm going to wrap this little diatribe up. Hopefully I'll have another show tonight if the gentleman frees up. I think you guys will all enjoy it. He's a fairly well-known fellow. So wrapping up honor, it causes more questions than it answers, because it's something that's ever evolving and only you can surrender it. Nobody else can take your honor, but you can give it up. So with that, thanks for stopping by Kaisers Kastle. Minimize the fear, minimize the pain. Train, train, train. Everybody have a great day and a great night. God bless. Shuff out.